The midday sun spilled like molten gold across the endless African savanna, painting the horizon in shimmering waves of light. The tall, dry grass swayed gently in the wind, whispering secrets of ancient hunts and timeless survival. Dust hung low over the plains, glowing in the heat, as if the entire world held its breath in stillness. In a sand-colored jeep crawling across this golden sea sat Clara Evans, a young wildlife photographer whose heart beat for moments just like these, raw, untamed, and breathtaking. Every frame she took, every photo she captured, was a silent conversation between her and the wild. Her camera wasn't just a machine. It was her voice. Beside her was Ranger Noah Cole, a man in his late 30s with weathered skin and calm eyes that had seen both the beauty and the brutality of nature. He knew this land as though it were a part of his soul. Every trail, every watering hole, every shadow that moved beneath the sun. The jeep moved smoothly across the open land, its tires pressing softly against the dusty path. Every so often, they would stop when Clara spotted something: a herd of gazelles grazing, a lone elephant stirring dust with its trunk, or the flutter of vultures circling above a distant kill. The air was still, peaceful. Even the occasional cry of a bird felt like part of a rhythm too old to question. Clara smiled behind her camera lens, feeling the kind of calm that comes only when the world around you forgets you exist. "This," she whispered to herself, "is a perfect day." Noah chuckled softly. Out here, perfect days never last too long. His words were half joking, half true, like most things spoken by those who live too close to the edge of the wild. But Clara didn't take it seriously, at least. Not until the sound reached them. It came faint at first, a distant echo, almost mistaken for the wind. Then it grew sharper, distorted laughter, high-pitched, unnerving, and unmistakable.
Oh, wow.
Hyenas. Clara froze, her camera still in her hands. "Do you hear that?" Noah had already raised his binoculars, his expression changing. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the shimmering horizon. Seconds passed. His jaw clenched. "It's not good," he said quietly, his voice low, heavy with something that made Clara's chest tighten. She turned to him. "What is it?" He handed her the binoculars, his voice grave. "Look, near that clump of trees to the east." Clara brought the binoculars to her eyes. At first, she saw nothing but moving shadows. Then her breath caught. A pack of hyenas, 8, maybe 9, circled 2 small lion cubs, no more than a few weeks old. The cubs were trembling, pressed tightly against each other, their tiny bodies dwarfed by the snarling shapes around them. Clara lowered the binoculars, her stomach twisting. "Oh my God,
We have to
they're
help
just
them.
babies." Noah's face was calm, but there was tension in the way his hand gripped the wheel.
Please hurry.
"They must have wandered off while
What
their
is
mother
it?
was hunting,"
What is
he
it?
murmured.
What
"If
did
we
you
don't do
see?"
something, they won't last long." Clara stared out at the scene, at those helpless, trembling cubs, and felt something break inside her. Her camera was still around her neck, but her hand wouldn't move. For the first time, she couldn't bring herself to press the shutter. "They'll kill them," she whispered, her voice cracking. Noah exhaled slowly. "You know the rules, Clara. We're not supposed to intervene unless it's absolutely necessary. This is how nature balances itself." Clara turned toward him, her eyes wet but burning with quiet fury. "Balance. They're just babies, Noah. They won't survive 5 minutes." He didn't answer right away. The sound of the hyenas grew louder, sharper, cruel. Clara gripped the side of the jeep, her heart pounding in her ears. Finally, Noah spoke again, his voice softer now. "If we help them, we break the rules. But if we don't..." He didn't finish. He didn't have to. Clara met his gaze, her expression steady and fierce. "We can't just watch. Please. We have to do something." For a moment, the only sound was the wind whispering across the dry plains. Then Noah nodded once, slowly. "All right, we'll save them." In that instant, the air seemed to shift. Noah reached into the back of the jeep, pulling out 2 red signal flares, a small siren, and a heavy wooden stick. Clara grabbed her own walking pole, her hands trembling, her breath uneven. The peaceful savanna she'd admired minutes ago now felt like a battleground. As they stepped out, the heat hit them like a wall. The wind carried the sharp, metallic scent of tension. Clara's heart pounded in rhythm with her footsteps as they moved closer to the commotion. The hyenas hadn't noticed them yet, too focused on the terrified cubs. Their laughter echoed like madness in the air. One of them lunged forward, snapping its jaws just inches from a cub's paw. The cub cried out, a weak, heartbreaking sound. Clara flinched. "Hurry," she whispered. Noah raised his flare gun high and fired. The flare screamed through the air and exploded above the hyenas with a violent crack. A burst of red light flooded the scene, scattering birds into the sky. The hyenas jerked back, startled and confused. Some growled. Others took hesitant steps away. Noah's voice rang out firm and loud. "Back! Get away!" Clara slammed her stick against the dry ground, again and again, shouting, her voice echoing with desperate courage. Dust rose around her feet. The hyenas turned their wild eyes toward the humans. The leader, larger than the rest, with dark scars across its face, snarled deeply, the sound vibrating through the air. Noah didn't flinch. He fired the second flare, this time low, right in front of the pack. It burst in a blinding flash, sending shards of light across the ground. The hyenas scattered in confusion, whining, snapping at the air. One by one, they backed away into the tall grass, their laughter fading into the distance. The scarred leader stood its ground for a few long seconds, its eyes locked with Noah's, before finally turning and disappearing into the grassland. The silence that followed was deafening. Clara stood motionless, her chest heaving, her stick still raised. Then, slowly, the reality hit her. They'd done it. The cubs were safe.
What is it?
The two little lions were still huddled together, trembling, their fur dusty and matted. Clara approached slowly, kneeling beside them. They didn't try to run. They were too weak. Their tiny eyes, wide and glassy, looked up at her with fear and confusion. "It's okay," she whispered, her voice trembling. "You're safe now." Noah joined her, crouching beside the cubs. He checked their small bodies, running his fingers gently through their fur. "No major injuries," he murmured. "Just exhaustion and dehydration." Clara poured water into a bottle cap and held it out. One cub lifted its head weakly, lapping at the water with tiny, dry tongue. The other followed soon after. Noah smiled faintly. "They're fighters." Clara nodded, her eyes soft. "And we're not leaving them behind." They carefully lifted the cubs and carried them to the jeep, placing them inside a small rescue crate lined with soft cloth. Clara sat beside the cage, watching as the cubs curled up together. Their breathing slowed, their eyes began to close, and for the first time, peace returned to their tiny faces. Noah started the engine, his tone thoughtful. "We'll take them back toward the northern plains. There's a pride that roams near the acacia trees. If we're lucky, that's where they came from." The jeep rolled forward, cutting through the golden grass. The sky shimmered with heat, and the world around them buzzed softly with the sound of life. But Clara's gaze stayed locked on the cage. Every few minutes, she'd reach out, making sure the cubs were still breathing steadily. "They deserve a chance," she whispered. Noah nodded. "Everyone does." They drove for what felt like hours under the burning sun. Sweat trickled down Noah's temples, and Clara's throat felt dry and rough, but neither of them complained. Every sound, every shadow, kept them alert. Finally, Noah slowed the vehicle and pointed ahead. "There," he said quietly. Under the shade of a massive acacia tree, a pride of lions rested, strong, majestic, and unbothered by the heat. A large lioness lifted her head lazily, her golden eyes scanning the plains. Clara's heart leapt. "Do you think?" "Only one way to find out," Noah replied. They parked the jeep a good distance away. Clara and Noah gently lowered the cage to the ground and unlocked it. The door creaked open. The cubs hesitated at first, blinking in the harsh light, then took hesitant steps forward. The moment they cried out, soft, high-pitched mewls that carried across the open field. The lioness jerked upright. Her entire body stiffened. Then, with sudden, desperate energy, she sprinted forward. Dust flew beneath her paws. The cubs ran clumsily to meet her halfway, their cries turning frantic, joyous, alive. When she reached them, the lioness nuzzled them fiercely, licking their faces, their necks, their backs, every inch of them, as if trying to make sure they were real. The cubs pressed their heads into her chest, trembling with relief. Clara felt her eyes sting. She raised her camera instinctively, then lowered it. Some moments, she realized, weren't meant to be captured. They were meant to be felt. The rest of the pride approached slowly, circling around the mother and cubs.
We have
A
to help
massive
them.
male lion, his mane glinting in the sunlight, watched silently before sitting down
Please
beside them.
hurry.
The family closed
What is
in,
it?
a golden,
it?
living
you
circle of
see?
protection. Noah stood beside Clara,
Righteous.
his expression soft. "We did the right thing," he said quietly. "Maybe against the rules, but right." Clara nodded, still staring at the reunited family. Sometimes, rules can't understand what the heart does. The sun was beginning to dip now, the golden light deepening into amber. The savannah seemed to exhale, calm once more. Clara and Noah climbed back into the jeep. As they drove away, Clara turned for one last look. The lioness was still there, her cubs nestled against her belly, safe and warm. The pickup truck disappeared slowly into the sea of grass, leaving behind only the faint hum of the engine and a wild family, whole again under the dying sun, and somewhere deep inside. Clara knew this was more than just another story from the wild. It was a reminder that even in the heart of the untamed world, compassion could still roar louder than fear. The savannah stretched endlessly ahead, glowing with the last light of day. And as the shadows grew long, the world felt, for a fleeting, perfect moment, peaceful again.